Welcome to Butterflies of Wisdom with me, everyone. And not only do you have me today, you have the fabulous Kevin. Kevin is a published author. He's also a radio host, believe it or not, and a professional podcaster. How lucky am I to get Kevin? So without further ado, I'm going to let Kevin take it away.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. And first of all, thanks for having me on, Wen. And I am actually, I am an author. I'm a published author. I am a award-winning and best-selling author by some regards. And I'm currently the director of marketing for a company called Draft Digital, which is a publishing aggregate. I do host a podcast called the Wordslinger Podcast, and I have a radio background. So those things are all true about me. Largely, I am, aside from being an author, I'm a big proponent of helping independent authors, independent publishers. I have a huge heart for that. That's kind of my passion work. So that is essentially me in a nutshell, and I'm happy to ask or answer any questions.
And by the way, when I first got into the publishing company, I stumbled across the company. By the way, you guys, if you want a terrific company to work with, and they make it so easy to publish a book, to iBooks, to Nook, to Kindle, to Kobo, to God knows what. They make it so easy. And the next time I go publish a book, I'm definitely going to use Draft Digital, because all you have to do is upload the manuscript, upload the cover, and one click button, and then it does magic all along. And I think the Apple iBooks, and Kevin's laughing at me because the terminology I just used.
No,
I think the Apple iBook is longest timing on its front. So, Kevin, I want to say, how did you get such an amazing job?
You know how you get a job like this this is how I got it. I actually was out promoting these guys long before I had anything to do with them, because I loved the service that they give so much. As I said, I mean, I'm big on helping independent authors. You know, I wrote a book called 30-Day Author, which was aimed at that audience, and my podcast is aimed at that audience. And when I discovered Draft Digital, it was just kind of, I become an evangelist of things that I love. And so I was out evangelizing their brand for them. And so they contacted me and said, hey, how would you like to make some money doing it? And how could I turn down an offer like that? You know, you don't often get asked to join a group of people who are doing the kinds of work that you love to do. So I was not about to walk away.
Yeah. You get to do what you love to do every single day.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. I get to write, which is my first love, and I do that every day. And then I get to work with authors and help them to publish their work, and that's my second love. So I got a life filled with love.
That's amazing. Now, I'm going to ask you, what is the best tip for using Draft Digital? Because I've noticed they do a wonderful job, and you can respond, help, this is not my manuscript, but from the inside, what are the best tips?
Well, I mean, as far as getting your book on Draft Digital, I mean, first of all, everything we do is free. So the best advice I can give you is to concentrate on things like the manuscript itself. So if you write in something like Microsoft Word or Scrivener even, which is very popular, but you want to use in Word, for example, you want to use their little heading settings. Okay, so heading 1, heading 2, that sort of thing, so that you, when you upload your manuscript, we can very easily find chapter breaks and that sort of thing, and you get a very clean manuscript right off the bat. It looks, we do the very best ebook conversion there is, honestly. It's very clean. It works on everything, and the best way to go about that is to use those tags in your document so it can very easily be converted. So that's one tip.
Yeah. Yes, that's one tip. Make it in Microsoft Word. When I send it to my editor, you guys, I have an editor, yes. And so she and I are both on Mac, but what I think she's doing, and I'll ask her this tomorrow, is using Microsoft Word or using Pages, which Pages is Apple's Microsoft Word, and I know it converts into Microsoft Word. But here's a tip for you guys that Kevin just said. You may want to look at your manuscript in Microsoft Word just to make sure it's perfect, because Scrivener, if you write it in Scrivener and export it, they might somehow screw it up.
Yeah, sometimes there are little glitches that happen in Scrivener. I mean, it's not, and it's always a quirk. It's always something off the wall. But yeah, it's always a good idea to check your manuscript in a couple of different places. Microsoft Word is a universal tool these days, so that's a pretty good one to use. I'm not a big fan of Microsoft in general, honestly. I've kind of tried to get away from them over the years, but it always comes back to Microsoft Word for me in my career. So it's not a bad piece of software to have, at least for the formatting aspect of your manuscript.
Okay, I was just going to say that you are a Mac person, aren't you?
Yeah.
I was just going to say that Mac and Creative Side mix Microsoft and Creative Side, well, you know this, Kevin, from a podcasting standpoint, Skype, and Creative Side do not mix. So let's get to your podcast a little bit.
Sure.
Why did you start your podcast?
I actually started it so that I would have an excuse to talk to people that I was interested in, to get their kind of behind-the-scenes story so that I could learn from them. The podcast was a great excuse for reaching out. I read a book several years ago, The 4-Hour Work Week, and he talked about calling people up and doing informational interviews, to learn something about the business you want to go into, or, get an insider's point of view. And I kind of took that to this new level because I'd worked in radio before, and I thought, I have the equipment, I have the ability, I'm good at interviews. I worked in film and TV as well as radio, and I thought if I can get these people on the air and share their story, then I get something out of it, but then they get something out of it as well, which is exposure, which is, not, that has its value, but also the listener gets something out of it. So my decision was, I can learn and I can grow, but I want to make sure that I share what I learn while I go. So that's why I did it. I mean, to me, it was a win-win situation for everybody involved, and the benefits far outweighed any downside. The downside is time. It takes time to produce the show. It takes time to do the interviews, as you know. You know all this. But doing that had such a huge upside for me in that I've connected to so many incredible people, not just celebrities either, by the way. I've connected with people who are in no way a celebrity, but are just so amazing and had so much to teach. And I would never have gotten to where I am right now had I not decided to do the podcast. So it's something I'm incredibly grateful for.
And now I'm going to ask you a favorite child question. And I know people go gulp when I ask them this question, but what has been your favorite interview you have done?
That is a tough question. one of my absolute favorites actually was I interviewed the author Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian, which was turned into a little film you may have heard of with an actor
Yes.
named Matt Damon. That was
Yes.
probably one of my favorite interviews because he was just he's a lot like me. He's kind of an entertaining, cut up kind of guy. The interview kind of went in little tangents, which I love. We talked about Aquaman at one point, but that's probably my favorite interview. I've interviewed so many people that are so incredible. It's really hard to narrow down. I've gotten some new best friends out of doing these podcasts. But that's probably the one that stands out the most to me.
I definitely agree. I've gotten some new best friends out of doing the podcast. My God. I didn't know I was going to learn from you. I didn't know ever that I was going to interview someone on the inside of Draft Digital. Up until today, I thought I was using this platform as a published author. I didn't know I was interviewing someone on the inside. But
okay. I did not make that clear, apparently.
Apparently you did. But that's okay. I did not know I was interviewing a podcast host either. But so basically, your podcast goes along with what you do in your 9 to 5.
Right. The podcast fits very neatly into my sort of career plans, into my life plans, and one of my guests actually taught me that career traditionally, before it became just sort of generally known as the work that you do, it used to have a deeper meaning, which was more than just your work. It was your entire life, and this comes from an age where if you were a blacksmith, your entire life centered around that work. It wasn't something you left behind at the end of the day and became someone else. You were the town smithy, but we kind of think of a work-life balance, and I think that that's very important. But I think it's also important to realize that the thing that you do all day long is a part of who you are. It's not just something you have to endure so you can get to the parts that you want, the parts that you love. It's actually something that should be a fundamental part of who you are. It should be an expression of who you are. And that was, the podcasting has helped me shape that part of my life, the career part of my life, and I've made connections and decisions that have really just enriched me. So, podcasting has done that. Draft to Digital has done that. My books certainly have done that. So everything I do is about that. It's about bringing all those pieces together into a career and life that are representative of who I actually want to be.
Well, I fully agree with that. If you're not passionate about your job, you're not happy.
Yeah, you're not in the right job anyway.
To say that you're not in the right job. Well, as my fan base knows, and I'm getting very, very, very close to a career change completely. I don't know what it is, whether it's a midlife crisis coming early, Kevin, or I don't know what it is. But my original background is in early childhood education. And now I am studying in the fall. I am going to get a degree in fashion journalism, believe it or not. So
really? Okay.
because I have been writing books since I was 23 years old, and in the self-publishing industry, as we mentioned at the top of the show, since I was 23 years old, I kind of need to now work on my craft and turn it into a paid career, because I'm like, okay, education after 11 years is driving me halfway up the wall, driving me bananas. And education in preschool land is driving me bananas, and people know that, and people ask me all the time, why don't you talk about education more than you do? And I'm like, I can't physically until I'm completely out of education. Then I would give you my true feelings. I have given my fans my true feelings, Kevin, but I haven't necessarily sat down and said, okay, this is what you do and do not do in education, because it won't be pretty. But I'm happy that you've decided to make the real pivot in your own life. Now, why did you leave radio and TV and all that glamorous stuff?
Honestly, it's because the market just changed. The things that I was doing, I was producing and directing, and I owned a small production company for a while, and literally it was almost overnight, honestly. I had a few $100,000 worth of television production equipment, for example, an edit bay and a whole lot of things that are really cool, and that cost me a lot and were costing me a lot out of, with loans and that sort of thing. And then overnight, Sony introduces the first, high-end, high-definition video camera for the consumer, and Mac introduces a new line of Intel-based, laptops, and suddenly any kid who can talk their parents out of, $7 to $10,000 had a production studio that can match me in every way. And so it was difficult for me to stay in business.
And then then they could jump on YouTube and millions.
Well, let's just put it this way. If I were producing a commercial that I was charging $10,000 for, I was competing against, college kids and even high school kids who were charging $50 for that same spot. So it wasn't really a viable business for me at that point. And writing had always been the through line of my career, always. I've been writing since I was 5 years old. I wrote my first book, I always joke, at 5 years old, Big Chief Notepad. And I've been publishing, I've been writing professionally since I was 12, meaning I've been paid for it since I was 12. And those things have always been there. Oh, yeah. I wrote for the local papers when I was 12, so it's kind of a cheat, but I was getting paid, so I count it.
What? You've been writing since what?
Well, we're not talking like Hemingway here. I was penning stories, but I was, It just shows that I have love for it.
Most college students are like, what? When they listen to this interview, Win was like, what? Geez. And I started when I was 23. I wish I made my career pivot when I was younger. It would have been a lot easier on me than 30 years old. But now that I'm making a career pivot, well, maybe. Kevin, I love you for saying it. Well, maybe. I love you for saying it. But, But now that I'm finally wise beyond my years to make this career pivot, I feel like it's going to be the best decision I have ever made in my life, because I get to do what I love and actually get paid for it, which is not really work, it's passion.
Right.
So, okay.
And I have to say, teaching preschool probably prepares you quite a bit for writing about fashion. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yes. You're sick and tired of reading those kids' books over and over and over again. And compared to you big time for a career in journalism, you want to have conversations with adults. My poor family, when I get to because I have a physical disability, I can't drive. So my whole family drives me to work and then picks me up. Well, when my dad, or it used to be my mom, because I started this in 2006, when they see me, my whole family gets the brunt of, I haven't seen adults all morning, let me talk to adults. And it's like, okay. It's like, enough's enough. Enough's enough.
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin, okay, where can people find you, and where can people find the magical powers of your 9 to 5 job?
Okay, so you can find me most readily at kevintumlinson.com, and that's my personal website, of course, my author site. You can even get a free book when you go there, so go there. And Draft to Digital is exactly the way it sounds. It's draft the number 2 digital.com, but if you can't remember the number 2, that's fine. We bought all the domain names that are close to it. So draft to digital.com, and honestly, I want to say, because I do represent those guys, and these guys, I represent us. I'm part of that team, but whether I worked for them or not, I would tell you flat out, you should definitely work with Draft to Digital. You should definitely go there.
Yeah,
it's an incredible company, and they care about the author.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And guess what, you guys? If you have PayPal, you can put it in your PayPal account. So that way you can have money to spend in your PayPal account. I was shocked when I got, and I believe I'm asking Kevin this, and then I'm going to let Kevin turn mic on me. I believe you can go as, what's the lowest price on Draft to Digital that you can do?
I'm sorry, I missed it. Something glitched out and I did not hear the question.
What's the lowest price you can sell a book at?
Your lowest price? I believe you can set it. You can actually set your books for free if you want on Draft to Digital. So any price. And a lot of people do actually set like if they have a series of books, they'll set the first one for free. And then they can ask Amazon to match that price. And that's actually kind of incredible, because some retailers won't let you do that if you go direct to that retailer. Barnes & Noble now does, but for the longest time they wouldn't. You had to actually go through us in order to do it. So, you can set it at 99 cents if that makes more sense for you. Practically any price. I think there are limits on how high you can set it, set by the retailers themselves. Yeah. But for the most part, you can set any price you want.
Yes. Well, as I said, Draft to Digital is one of my favorite tools. And when I self-publish my book later this year, I will be working with Draft to Digital once again. Trust me, that's how I got it on iBooks. And because going through iBooks without Draft to Digital is a big pain in the neck.
Yeah. Yeah, we hear that from a lot of authors. I think most of our authors probably came to us because of iBooks. And Apple, I think,
Let's just say that.
Yeah, Apple actually likes it when people come to them through us, actually. We make things a little easier on them, too, because we represent one account and we handle all the customer support. So if someone has an issue after uploading to us, if there's an issue with their iBook version of their book, I mean, they call us and they don't hassle Apple. So, and Apple, they're aware that it can be a little trying to get on their system, so they're fine with people coming through us. They're a great company, so they're on board.
That's the big secret here, you guys. Use Draft to Digital to get on Apple. You would think I would be a technology genius, but no. When it comes to Apple iBooks, no, we're not a technology genius when it comes to that. We need help. We need help. Right. And that's what Draft to Digital is here to do. And so, Kevin, before I let you go, I'm going to let you ask me 2 to 3 questions that you've been interested in asking me.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you give me this opportunity. Now, I would love to know, like, besides Butterflies of Wisdom, like, what do you do outside of this podcast?
Well, as I said, I teach, which
Okay.
that's a whole nother story in itself. I am very athletic, despite my physical disability. Athletics on my gene. And so I have a recumbent bike. I have a snowboard. I skied at one point, snow skied. And yeah, so outside this podcast, I am very athletic. Some people call me the gym rat, but the reason why I do that is because if cerebral palsy gets on top of you, it's not going to be a pretty sight. So I'm pretty much on my feet every single day, either working out or just walking or just riding my bike. I mean, I'm athletic to the guild here.
Okay. The follow-up question I really want to ask now is, because you have a disability and you've clearly accomplished quite a bit. I mean, you're doing fantastic. So I'm really curious what your best advice is for other people who have any sort of disability, as far as determining, their goals and how to meet them and getting past any limitations they might have on the work that they can do. Like, what's your best advice?
Okay. I'm going to answer this question in 2 parts. 1, use Siri or Dragon Dictation to write books. Use Siri or Dragon Dictation to write books. Dragon Dictation is on the PC side, you guys. And so write books and use a vision board to plan out your life. I was lucky enough, and I don't have it anymore actually, I was lucky enough to attend leadership workshops, not necessarily to deal with your disability, but to live your dreams. And at one point, I said I want to go back to school and be an advocate for people with disabilities. Well, turns out that I am. And I want to write a book on my life. That was 10 months after my mom died. And so 11 people thought I was nuts when I said I want to write a book on my life. And that was at age 23. Well, 1 year later, I turned around to those 11 people and said, guess what? I got the manuscript all done myself, and it's now in the editing process. So, so that would be my suggestion. Use a vision board and write books. And use a journal if you can do journaling, and you don't have to be as open and honest about your disability as I am, but I'm a little too open and honest about my disability, honestly. But I just feel like get those feelings out and be something you are really passionate about. Be what you want to be.
That's excellent advice. That's advice everybody can follow.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Right. Well, that's great. I don't think I could ask any other questions and get any other answers at that point.
You can't. You can't. And just to let you know, and I don't think that Splash Digital sponsors Kevin's podcast by any means. Splash Digital doesn't sponsor this podcast. I wish they would, but because even though I haven't listened to your podcast yet, Kevin, you must send me a link so I can listen to it in iTunes. And so
Absolutely.
I don't think Glass Digital is in the sponsoring. Well, maybe they are. I don't know. But
Well, I think
I'm sure
so.
you'd be.
I'm
I'm
so
sure
I'm the one
you're
who
going to
makes those
be sharing
decisions.
this with.
Right.
I'm
I'm
sure.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh boy, I'm sure you're going to be sharing this with those guys, and I'm sure you're going to be sharing this with your fan base.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so do you think, this is my last question, do you think Glass Digital or any of these self-publishing companies are going to jump on the podcast bandwagon?
Well, I know Kobo has the Kobo Writing Life podcast. Draft to Digital, we actually do sponsor my podcast now because I'm the director of marketing and I get to say so. So I've been sponsoring my show. Yeah, I think a lot of the publishing aggregates might. I mean, it's not something I think I hear much buzz about, and maybe they don't put as much value on it, which I think is crazy considering self-published authors trend toward listening to podcasts. It's just what we do because it's a great resource. It's a great place to learn and hear directly from people who are experts in what we need to learn. So, we don't have an official Draft to Digital podcast. It's something I've kind of wanted to pull together for us, but it's proven a little bit problematic. But I do sponsor my show.
You do sponsor your show. So in a sense, Draft Digital is sponsoring a podcast, but it's not the official one yet.
Right.
Yet. We say yet because maybe someday they'll get into the staring. Kobo has gotten into the staring. Quite frankly, Kobo's a different distributor, and Kobo's a pain in the ass. That's why I use Draft to Digital to belong to Kobo.
Oh, okay.
So Kevin, you know my secret now. I use the only way I don't use Draft to Digital is when I'm uploading to Amazon. Although Amazon seems to be one of your aggregates, I think. Oh no.
Not yet. It's something
Not
that's
yet.
on our board. Yeah, they
Because
used to be.
They just want their own kingdom for themselves.
But there's always
that
hope.
way. Apple's nice that they share the kingdom, but Amazon, no way. No way. There's always hope. There's always hope. And I will be hopeful that Draft to Digital will be sticking around, and be hopeful that Draft to Digital will make its own improvements as the time goes on.
We ain't planning to go anywhere.
We ain't planning to go anywhere. Well, yes, now that makes me feel better that I can still use Draft to Digital when I get this other book done. And you guys, you just heard Kevin speaking to me, and Kevin is the sales and marketing guru and Draft to Digital. As I said, I love Draft to Digital, and of course, Draft to Digital doesn't sponsor this podcast, but the way Kevin talks about it and the way I talk about it, they should sponsor the podcast because we love them. Kevin is laughing at me because I gave him my love. But this podcast is sponsored by Grace by Grit. Grace by Grit is a clothing line out of California, and Grace by Grit is giving you 20% off This podcast is also sponsored by GoKitter, K-I-T-T-E-R, and you can post the tweet. They put the hashtag with it. Yes. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for your support. And Kevin, I enjoyed our conversation today. And as I said, I would be using your company in all of these, even if you didn't come on my podcast. And I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode. Thanks to you guys.
Thank you so much for having me on. Hello?